Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from reviews of comics new and old, to history, to anecdotes, to really wherever our whims take us. Last time, or well recently, we discussed the history of Maxwell Lord, where he stands in the DC universe at the time of that recording. And we touched upon a key moment that linked him to Wonder Woman, a moment that comes up in both their histories from that point onward. What moment is this that we're talking about? The moment when Wonder Woman snaps his neck. There is so much passion, let's use the word passion, surrounding this event. There is a division of opinion on this neck snap and its fallout, and I asked, would you like to hear more? And you responded with a resounding, oh snap. It's gonna be that kind of video today. So here we are again. We're not gonna go over lore too much because we already did that. And of course, if you missed that video, I have a card and a link. But I will ground you. I will ease you into this occurrence. We'll do some chiropractic style twists before going for the really hard. So get ready to watch one of the Trinity use DC's favorite method when they need a hero to just get some villain out of the way. But before we get started, I'm Sasha, and if you're enjoying this content, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit subscribe button. Join us in this comic book journey. The death of Maxwell Lord at the hands of Wonder Woman takes us to the mid-2000s, a time of change in the comic book industry, as well they all are. It's constantly shifting, reacting to, and being influenced by the world around it, and previous eras in the industry. The 90s had been a time full of intense action, sometimes manic action, and also grit. But as the 2000s entered the scene, the action would become a bit more contained, streamlined, though the plots could still be just as convoluted and off the rails. But that can be said for any era. All the zany plots, all the time, forever. Of course, these are general trends. In every era, there will be and are exceptions. However, what definitely was changing was an increase in on-panel brutality and a grim, dark tone that sometimes seemed to be going out of its way to retcon or slant previous depictions. This death takes place in the lead up to Infinite Crisis, a big DC-wide event that was set to re-establish the multiverse, which had been eradicated in a previous event, Crisis on Infinite Earths, which had occurred 2 decades prior in 1985. The lead up to this event saw the destabilization of the DC universe, particularly amongst the Trinity. When it came to Superman, this was reflected in a deterioration in his mental state. This at first seemed to be brought on by the growing distrust and fear of him in the public eye, though it would soon be revealed that while yes, that was bothering him, he was also being manipulated by Maxwell Lord. The main storyline this happened in was called Sacrifice, and it began in 2005, and it was one of those ones that span across multiple titles, using the old, oh, so you like to understand what's going on? Well then buy all 8 of these. It's a tried and true tactic. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. They would later be collected into a trade called Superman Sacrifice, which would also collect the immediate aftermath. So it's a place to start if you're looking for that. So these issues revealed that Superman was completely compromised, and that Maxwell Lord had been working his way into his psyche for years, worming his way specifically around the barriers Clark had built up in his mind around killing, after having done so once, knowing that once these were broken, Superman would break too, and there would be no going back from him from that point. He'd been engineering a series of hallucinations that would lead Clark to lose control and have these psychotic episodes. And one of my favorite things about these is that a recurring one is Lois stepping out on him. When we see them, we see one time with Brainiac, another time with Darkseid, which is fantastic because in a story about re-establishing the multiverse, I want to be reminded of Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane. If Clark remembered any of that, he should be worried. The story also goes out of its way to distance itself from past iterations of Lord. Whereas Lord had been a successful businessman when he first debuted, the Flash in this is all, what, that used car salesman? Like dang, couldn't just make him full villain, had to take away his business cred too? Also, a bizarre choice when you're revealing that he can control Superman like this from a distance, just to be like, yes, be afraid, but also zero business acumen. Although, maybe I'm just inferring that. Maybe he was an excellent used car salesman. These hallucinations are so intense that they've caused him to nearly beat Batman to death. It was only Wonder Woman's intervention that saved him. Both telepathic and magical solutions are offered, and Martian Manhunter tries the telepathic one, reaching into Clark's mind to see what's going on and if he can help. But these planted psychoses, as they're described, are so numerous and layered that Max has subverted Clark's entire mind, gone so deep that the Martian Manhunter says that he doesn't think he can fix it, and that if he tries to do anything, Clark could just go insane or go on some kind of murder spree. Clark is devastated to be a threat to, well, basically everybody, and Max soon reasserts control and he goes off, and so Wonder Woman seeks him out because she thinks that she will be immune for reasons. What's that? You like terrible puns involving Maxwell Lord's name? Well, you've come to the right place because Sacrifice does too. What do you say? Are you ready to kneel before the Lord? It makes me feel some kind of way every time. Not menaced though, it's not menacing. It's just silly and on par with Silver Age kink fodder. You'll forgive me for saying it, princess, but you look good on your knees. and I want you to stay there. He's a telepath controlling the Man of Steel. You don't have to work this hard to make me feel uncomfortable or to make him creepy. So she's right, he can't control her because gods, that's the reason they use. And he reveals that he has complete control of Superman. Clark sees what he wants him to see, when he wants him to see it. He's not even using any verbal triggers either, he's just doing it. And yes, his nose is bleeding, but it's not really causing him that much discomfort. And he was able to try and control Wonder Woman at the same time, so his powers have reached like a next tier level. All of Supes' visions either involve Lois being brutally murdered or cheating on him. The Injustice universe looks more and more viable by the minute. So Lord sicks Superman on Wonder Woman, but she realizes that that's just a distraction. She really needs to get to Max. So she manages to disorient Clark and then head back there. She ropes up in the lasso of truth, where he reaffirms what he told her earlier. The only way to end his control of Superman is for him to be dead. Under the influence of the lasso, he tells her he'll never let Superman go. He'll just keep coming. So she asks how to free him, and he says, kill me, and she does. But he had started filming with Brother Eye the instant she started that fight with Clark, because it's one of those scenarios where whatever happens, he ends up winning. Like, she kills Clark, he wins. Clark kills her, he wins. Either of them kill him, he wins. The whole plan is to destabilize and to make humanity wary of heroes, and specifically metas in general. Although, I mean, neither Superman or Diana is a meta, but whatever. The point is, whatever happens, people will feel insecure watching their heroes beat each other to a bloody pulp and kill. So this moment ignited many reactions, as did the multiple fallouts, both immediate and further down the line. So let's start with the moment itself. Some felt this was an incredibly strong Wonder Woman moment, and loved the confidence with which she did what needed to be done, and indeed what no other member of the Trinity or League was presented as being able to do, either in narrative or from a historical lore standpoint. That being an avatar of compassion does not preclude killing. That to hold life and death in one's hands and to have to choose and choose with confidence was not a betrayal of her feminine roots. In fact, some felt it was quite the opposite. That the scenario presented had no outs, like the Kobayashi Maru, and that she's not Captain Kirk. Was she gonna keep him trapped in the lasso forever? It was already presented that a solution would break Clark's mind. Max told her he was just gonna keep doing it. Some felt it made perfect sense and was a powerful resolution to a dark story. Others hated it and felt it was an artificially manipulative scenario. That it had to jump through hoops to make this the only solution. That Wonder Woman wouldn't kill. There was too much emphasis on the warrior part of her backstory, not enough on the human element. That showcasing a classic Trinity member killing was just another nail in the coffin of heroism and heroes that one could look up to. No thanks, we have nihilistic postmodern deconstruction at home. The lack of remorse from Diana to some readers read as cold and terrifying, not resolute or courageous. For some, this wasn't an inspiring moment at all, but a jumping off point. Then there was the immediate fallout. Both Superman and Batman ice Wonder Woman out after this. They treat her like a pariah, and she says that she's broken both their friendships and neither want anything to do with her. She's treated like she's done something irredeemable, which in the eyes of some fans she had, but this reaction annoyed others, as either they felt she had no other option, or the narrative was being unfair to her, presenting her as taking the proper course and then punishing her for it. This distrust of her is a key factor in driving forward their roles in Infinite Crisis. It's meant to be nuanced, but for some it didn't come across that way at all. Some felt that this was a silly thing to break this Trinity up over, like really? This is it? It just takes one of them killing one person and it's all over? That it was an immature reaction in a story that was trying to have mature stakes. Now of course some appreciate that there were consequences and fallout, that a reaction had to be had whether they agreed with it or not. But this moment didn't just lead to the cold shoulder from Bats and Supes, but whole storylines. So since this event was broadcast, Wonder Woman was taken into custody. It was broadcast without any context. It was just like, oh snap. People didn't take kindly to an ambassador from Themyscira killing on camera. In all fairness, when it looked like Barry Allen had snapped the Reverse Flash's neck, he too stood trial for 2 years. But this detention of Wonder Woman would lead to Amazon's attack, which was not a well-received storyline. It featured the Amazons, well, attacking because of the illegal detention of Wonder Woman. The story itself is not too pleasant in many regards. You have Wonder Woman being tortured. The DMA, that's the Department of Meta-Human Affairs, trying to get the schematics for the Purple Healing Ray, or just Purple Ray. It ends up being replicated as a death ray, a purple death ray, which further angers the Amazons. The Purple Ray is that magical ray that Amazons have, the one that at one point was the source of Donna Troy's power. This was all orchestrated by Cersei, or rather she worked the situation to her advantage, or seemingly so, because she is defeated. But it was not a portrayal of the Amazons that went down too well, and of course there was an allegory of certain topical events at the time, so some of that may have faded. However, it resulted in the Amazons being depowered and scattered for a bit, and would lead into Who is Wonder Woman, which was the reintroduction of her during the 1 year later story arc. That was where the Trinity pieced out and left for a year and left it all to the B Squad. But that led to 52, which was a better received arc and a really interesting mystery. I for sure am biased on that because 52 is one of the first omnibuses I ever bought. lives close to my heart. 10 out of 10 would read again. It's actually behind me. I sit in front of it every time. I'm blocking it, but there it is, 52. You see, that's what's on the cover is the Batman cowl, lasso of truth, and there's the sword through Superman's cape because of all the stuff that went down in Infinite Crisis. So as always, pros and cons, and what they are for you is gonna vary. Who is Wonder Woman is a 5-issue arc consisting of 4 single issues and an annual. Having handed off the mantle of Wonder Woman to Donna Troy, Diana finds herself having to try to find her protege when she goes missing. While she has returned to man's world as Diana Prince, the question is, will she come back as Wonder Woman? The answer is yes, but the story is an interesting examination of what it means to be Wonder Woman. To Diana, to Donna, to the world, to her colleagues and friends, because Superman and Batman got over it, because of course they did. They forgave her, which some of course take issue with, because depending upon where you landed, you either felt she did or didn't need that, or you know, you didn't care. That too was an option. Not caring is always an option. Now, when looking at things like this, I also like to ponder what did the creators have to say, if anything. Especially in this case, as around the time and leading up to Infinite Crisis, the creators of Maxwell Lord had been working on stuff with that character, in fact, with all the members of the JLI. Giffen de Matisse and Maguire were working on formerly known as the Justice League, a mini-series released in 2003, and a sequel was set to release in 2005 called I Can't Believe It's Not the Justice League, which very much leaned into their versions of the characters. So the Lord there was very much not the villainous head of Checkmate. They funnily enough acknowledged the cyborg shift though, but kept the ambiguous businessman portrayal otherwise. So that series occupies an interesting canonical space because of that. Yes, I know at the time of this recording we now have the Omniverse. So everything happened and so everything mattered. Although what I often hear is when everyone's super, no one is. That's a topic for another video. So for anybody who is hoping that the Omniverse would make people stop pondering canon, no verse puts baby in the corner. I will not be silenced, nor will I ever stop pondering. I cannot be stopped. I couldn't find anything specific about the neck snap, but I did find some interesting statements. Of course, if you have any, leave your receipts down below. What I have in a chunk for you, just how I like them. On changing character tone in 2017, de Matisse had this to say: look what they did to Max Lord and having him shoot Blue Beetle in the head. The worst we ever did to Beetle was we had him gain weight. He got fat and couldn't fit into his costume. The truth of working on those universes is someone else is always gonna come along and mess with what you did. I've done that to other people. I'm sure there are people going, I can't believe what he did to my characters. Okay, let's hear some thoughts on character death from Keith Giffen from 1989. If I'm going to kill a character now, I make sure, is there a reason for it? Or is it a cheap shot? If I have the slimmest doubts about it, I won't do it. Now let's hear from Greg Rucka, Wonder Woman author at the time of Infinite Crisis. Let's see what he had to say about Maxwell Lord and the shift that had just occurred, because he's talking about Max, not Wonder Woman. You've got to experience the whole exchange. Let me add some classy music and visuals. That feeds right into my next question. Why make Maxwell Lord evil? He's obviously a good candidate. Some people would disagree with you. Yeah, Justice League International fans. I have to say, I love the Giffen de Matisse stuff, and frankly, I'm hoping to see them basically say, hey guys, take your shots, because you deserve the right to punch the snot out of us. I love those books. Those were the books that brought me back to comics. So I know people are nervous that they say, you're taking away the fun, and you're taking away the joy, and well, we're not. What we're doing is we're recoloring it. I don't think we're invalidating it. I feel with Max, and frankly, if anyone ever looked at Max and thought he was a good guy, they weren't reading the... I always thought he was a scumbag. If they thought he was a good guy, they weren't reading the story. I sent my JLI, my friends, into a trap. I feel like I'm losing my grip. I don't know what's right or wrong anymore. Maybe I never did. What have I become? How about how just after that exchange, he then destroys Metron's computer, which he'd been working with for years, because he no longer agreed with the convictions that the computer had been pushing him towards, and actually wanted world peace and the JLI. How about the time after his metagene was enacted, he went to check and make sure that the computer was off, and also to try and figure out if the computer had known, and if the computer had wanted him to manipulate the League, because that's something he didn't want. No, Greg Rucka's right. I just can't read or understand good. This interview is from 2005. And I'm so offended, like it came out yesterday. The gauntlet has been thrown from the past. I feel the condescension echoing through time. I've got to add that to the Didio quote from the Maxwell Lord video. Did anybody read it? No. Did anybody like it? No. If you thought something, you just didn't read it good. What's going on here in that Rucka interview was that the pure evil Max thing was an on-high retcon decided upon by many sources, and other parts of Lord's character were even ignored to make it happen. So you see, the context changes what's going on, and it makes it more clear why he answered like that. You can get different reads on the character interview from the past. Like, I'm arguing with an interview from the past. So aside from the changing tone in comics and a panel that few will forget that is very iconic to recreate, what did this neck snap contribute? Well, it became a moment for both characters, and one that would come up again and again. And Max would now be linked to her. If he showed up, it would be likely that at some point he would have a showdown with her or the JLI. Those are the two things that he's associated with now. Even though during the JLA and JLI runs, they didn't really interact too much. Pre-villainous heel turn, that is. It's also a benchmark moment for Diana. In Blackest Night in 2009, so 4 years out from the next snap, when Max is brought back to life for the Black Lantern rings before being outright resurrected in Brightest Day, him and Wendy fight briefly, and he taunts her with it. But she just tells him that she regrets the necessity and not the action. That is owning it. That's a succinct statement. I don't know why, but it sticks with me every time. But this moment is referenced even post-company-wide reboots. It was utilized to interesting effect in 2020's Rebirth Wonder Woman run, leading up to Future State, when Max became aware of the next snap thanks to coming into contact with the source wall and seeing all of realities. This after his daughter forced that particular memory to the forefront of his mind, in a bit to hurt him when he seemed to be siding with Wonder Woman over her. And she set him on this path to try and force Wonder Woman to do the same actions again, to try and prove to her that she's not as heroic as she thinks she is. That's some petty nonsense. I'm here for it. It was a twisted sort of power play thing. Now, I use the word interesting, but there are others who would describe it as, again, can we leave it alone? Leave Infinite Crisis in the past. We don't need to keep bringing this up. It's not that interesting or worth it. Why this moment seems to resonate, or rather cause such a reaction, is because it cuts to the core of that question. Who is Wonder Woman, and how should she be portrayed? Wonder Woman, thanks to the complexity of thoughts surrounding femininity and womanhood present in her creators, has always walked an interesting line. William Moulton Marston described her purpose thusly: not even girls want to be girls, so long as our feminine archetype lacks force, strength, and power. Not wanting to be girls, they don't want to be tender, submissive, peace-loving, as good women are. Women's strong qualities have become despised because of their weakness. The obvious remedy is to create a feminine character with all the strength of Superman, plus all the allure of a good and beautiful woman. Wonder Woman is a character built to embrace contradictions, but is also inherently tied to depictions of femininity, and those like society itself and the character and the industry have shifted over time. There are many ways to view Wonder Woman, and she's been depicted a variety of them. And where you are when you got into comics, your subject positioning, so much is going to determine how you come at the idea of her killing, both in general and in this context. It sticks to her in a different way than it sticks to Max, because when it happened, he was villainous, and it's much less shocking to see a villain die than to see a hero kill, at least in terms of that paradigm of what is good and what is bad. It makes it a fascinating instance, and one many ponder. Even though recent at the time of this recording Wonder Woman sequel, Wonder Woman 84, as soon as it was revealed Lord was an antagonist, people who were aware of it started to think about this moment again, both in anticipation and with dread. I've seen both reactions in the comments of, that's what should have happened, and I'm glad that didn't happen. So I want to hear what you think of it. Pro neck snap, anti neck snap. She had no choice. There was another way. If so, what was it? Hate the fallout, like the fallout. Is it a defining moment for you at all? Does it need to be let go of? Stop referencing it? Does it strengthen her or Lord's character? Is it interesting to you? I want to hear it all. Let me know your thoughts down below. This was fun. I don't know, I had fun. I hope that you had fun too. We all had more fun than Maxwell, Lord, and Sacrifice, I think, although he seems to be enjoying those creepy puns, so I don't know. Please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to spend it discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye!